What's good, everyone? In this video, we're going to be talking a little bit about the DJ/demo master. I would recommend not doing it in the project that you have open, so I would actually recommend rendering this out as a pre-master and loading it into a separate project, or if you do want to do it in the same project, that's fine, but I would still recommend just working on one file opposed to the whole project. It's just a little bit easier to see the scope of what's going on in the waveform. So what most engineers are going to ask for is for the track to be sitting around -6 and -3 decibels. So what you can do is kind of go to a part in the track where it's most busy and take a listen from there and kind of monitor the master channel and kind of see where the where it's peaking around in the meter here. So we want it to sit between these two numbers here. So there's -6, there's -3. Or you could listen to the whole track. You never know, there might be something poking out or like a duplicate sample that's sitting on top, you know, and creating a peak. But that's what I would recommend doing. So, you know, this track is already prepped, but just to give you a little example of what I mean, I'll just come to this, to the drop here and take a listen here. So now I'm going to sit on the master channel here and I'm just going to monitor this peak, the decibel meter here. So yeah, so like I'm good. So if you weren't good, let's say your tune was sitting up here, or you know, it was between 3 and 0. What you can do is you could just drag this down, but I don't recommend doing that. What I generally do is I would just throw a some kind of gain plugin, so utility in Ableton, or you can use Fruity Balance in FL Studio, and I would just let it play and then just tweak this volume knob until it's kind of sitting exactly where you want it to be. And I should mention, like, the highest part of the loudest peak should be sitting between -6 and -3. I'm not talking about an average, I am talking about the very loudest part of the track should be sitting around here. So this is kind of how that would look like. Just reset this. And I would just pull this in until it's sitting exactly where I wanted it. You know, so right now I have it between -9 and -6. But generally I want it here. Or wherever your mastering engineers ask for it. Like, this is just kind of how I do it. I know that my engineer likes it there, so that's what I do. So then after that, what you want to do is you want to render it. So I'll just kind of go through my settings really fast. Just call this, I already rendered this out, but I'm going to do it again just for the sake of this video. Click save. And here's my settings here. So we want to do it in a WAV file. We want it 24-bit. Want to make sure that it's high quality for all plugins. Disable maximum polyphony. I'm not sure if that really matters or not. And then right here, this does matter. So this resampling here, we got the 512 point sync. Depending on your DAW, this page might look different, but this is kind of what we're looking for. We want to make sure that the resampling is as high as it can be. We want to make sure it's 24-bit. 32-bit works as well. There's some benefits to that, but I think it's a bit unnecessary. 24-bit is good. Make sure that all our inserts are enabled, master effects are enabled. You can save the tempo information if you want. I like to click this just because sometimes beatport and things like that can mess it up. But yeah, so you just click start, let that render out, and then what we're going to do is open up the file that we just created into a blank project. So let's open that up. Then I'm going to zoom out. So the first thing I'm going to start looking for is any peaks. Anything that's kind of poking out, and that's going to kind of tell me that that's going to be the loudest part in the track. And the reason we're looking for that is because we kind of want to master the loudest part in the track so it's not distorting. So if we mastered like this area here and we bumped we made this part really loud, what's going to happen is the rest of this is going to be extra loud. So if this is hitting at 0, this is just going to be hitting at 0 as well with the limiter, but it's going to distort the absolute shit out of it, and you don't want that. So what we want to do is find a loud part in the record, the loudest part, the most busy part, and we want to go from there. So my track is pretty even. I'd like keep an eye on this kind of stuff as I'm mixing my tunes down. So what you want to do at this point is just find a good section to, start taking a look. So we kind of match the BPM if we want. You don't need to. It's not going to make a difference, but so this is 134, I can tell. So what we'll do is we'll grab it and we'll just do 2 bars and we'll master from here. Now, to get this loud, the only thing it really needs is a limiter. And you just bump the limiter up until it starts to distort and then back it back down, and you're going to have a loud mix. And to be honest, I think that is probably pretty sufficient for sending it out or even testing out the track, getting an idea of what it's going to sound like with a limiter for mixing purposes. So I'm going to show you that first, just because that might be all you're looking for at the end of the day, is just to get the tune really loud to send it around. So we're just going to choose the true peak limiter here. And what we'll do is we'll just kind of play at this part and start bumping up the gain until we start to hear some distortion. Then we'll back it off. So that's generally where I try to keep it. I don't really like to go past 3 decibels of gain reduction if I don't have to. So between 6 and 3 is kind of like where I would generally put this just for a demo. It doesn't need to be the final mix. It's probably going to get mastered again. So you just want it loud enough that it's going to compete with the other tunes that someone's playing in their set or the other demos that the label is receiving and listening to. Us humans do tend to think that louder is better. So, if you're sending a demo and the track just sounds really quiet compared to everything else, they might automatically deem that not to sound good. I'm not saying they will. I feel like most people do know this. So, it might be fine. But just a good rule of thumb, you do want to, make sure it's nice and loud compared to everything else. So you could honestly just call this done for a demo master. I truly do believe that this is fine. You can play this out. I've done it. I've sent demos like this. I've signed tracks just like this. Just throwing a limiter on the end and, banging it off. And at this point, what you can do is just render it out. So we'll go back to the WAV file. We'll call it something. We'll just call it DJ Master. And the settings for this are generally a little bit different, but not by much. I would just move this to 16-bit. I would add dithering, keep it in stereo, and then click render. And that's how I would do it. Now, to go a little bit further into the demo master, if you are trying to make it sound as good as possible, what you can do is a few different things. So I do have this software called Minimeters that I do reference a lot. This is a paid thing. It's pretty cheap though, like $10. And I'll open this up and I'll pin it to the top. And now if I take a listen, we'll get all this information on the bottom. So just take a peek at that. So you might notice here there's a few different modules. So the ones that I really like to look at are this waveform module and this spectrometer here, spectrogram. I don't know, spectra something, oscilloscope. I think that's over here. I think this is a spectrogram. I think that's what it's called. Now, when you listen to it, or when you look at it, sorry, you'll notice that it has a slope to it. So I'll just talk a little bit about slope right now. There's something called pivotal slope when you're looking at a spectrogram. The ones that I like to use are 0 decibel pivot slopes and then the normal 4.5 pivot slope. So if you don't have this plugin, what you can do is open up parametric EQ, and you can full screen this bad boy. Come down here and go to pivot slope, and there's 0 decibel, and then there's the 4.5 decibel here. These are the ones that I like to reference, so I'm going to be talking about those. In my Minimeters plugin, I have it set to 0, so I'm just going to show you what it looks like with both of those slopes. So, in 0 decibel slope, a good mix generally should kind of look like a downward linear slope. So it should start from here and kind of end there. And what I noticed by looking at this is I look like I have a little slope, and then it kind of flattens out here. In this area, it's kind of flat. It should look more linear. And if I look at this on a 4.5 slope, the bottom end and the top end should kind of be sitting balanced with one another, and then the middle should have a bit of a dip to it. So let's just take a listen and we'll take a look at this graph. So what I see here is that the high end is actually a lot louder than the low end. So this is one thing that you can reference to just help with the balance of the overall mix in the mastering stage. Now, I would maybe go back into my mix and address this, but just for the sake of sending it out or just getting a demo master, this is kind of what I'm going to be going off of. So there's a few things we could do here. We can open up a version of Maximus, and this kind of has a multi-band frequencies here. So we have low end, mids, highs, and we know that the lows need to be a little bit louder. The highs need to be a little bit quieter. You know, you could try to go about this with a little bit of EQ or a little bit of volume. So, you know, if we just kind of have this here, this parametric EQ, I'll make it a little bit smaller. So I'll put it in this bottom corner here, and we'll just kind of reference it while we tweak some stuff in the Maximus. So we could use this for compression. We could also use this for volume. So what I'm going to do is just kind of start with volume. So in the high end, so let's see what frequency it is. It's kind of flattening out around 29, 36. So yeah, it's about where this is. So let's bring this down a bit. So I'm gonna bring this down about 3 decibels. And I'm kind of referencing this little line here, this plus 6 decibel line. That's kind of sitting here. This is kind of where I'm like using as a reference point for this. So I'm turning this down. I'm gonna go to the lows. I'm gonna turn that up a little bit. So that's a little bit better. We could also try going about this with an EQ as well, and try to like dip the frequencies instead of the overall volume. I feel like volume is just like a safer way to go about it, because then we're not removing any information from the track. We're just kind of balancing the overall levels of the track, which might be all that you need, right? So we got some Maximus on there, balancing it out. So now let's take a look at how the slope is on the Minimeters here. And this is looking a lot more like a linear a linear slope than it was before. So let me turn off Maximus. So you see now it's like more flat here. And then with Maximus, it's more of a slope. Now I do think this got a little bit muddy, in my opinion. And that just might be because there's a little bit too much information in this area here. This like 200 hertz area. So what we'll do is we'll add a EQ here now. Let's make sure I got the right one open. I'll just kind of boost this up. Yeah, so around there, I'm kind of hearing it. If we close this for a second, what we can do is kind of A/B this with how it sounded before. So we can just use this button down here and turn everything off and everything back on and kind of see where we're at. So let's take it off. So make sure I'm looped up here, so I'm listening to the same part over and over again. I thought I had a loop going, but apparently I got rid of it. Let's actually move from that part. Let's go to this part, take a listen to another busy part of the track. So that sounded not bad so far. Another thing we can do is just kind of use some coloring EQ to maybe boost a couple different areas. So in mastering as well, there's also something called perceived loudness. And I find a lot of the time what our ears do is, well, what our ears do like actually is if something is really loud in the high end, like we're really sensitive to that, so it's gonna sound louder. So what you can do is just kind of give it a little bit of air. I'm not talking about like boosting it like crazy, because like we just turned it down. But what you can do is add something called this Maag EQ. Well, you don't have to use Maag EQ. You could use whatever EQ you want, really. But I always just like to give a little boost in like this airy area of like 20 to 40. Nothing crazy, like just a little bit. So we'll just add that on. So we'll do it extreme and then we'll back it off. So that's kind of nuts. Just kind of want it like maybe around, like just something subtle, honestly. Like maybe 2.5 decibel, 2 decibel. Kind of A/B this. Like it's just subtle. Maybe 2.5. Yeah, like that's perfect in my opinion. And then maybe you need some compression on yours. Maybe you have a lot of peaks and valleys. Like I said, my tune is pretty balanced. So I don't think I'm looking to add any compression to this, but what you could do is just put some like very, very light compression on this. So like a very light. So you could use something like this compressor, like this fruity limiter. But I'm just gonna use the compressor tab, and I'm saying like 1 ratio kind of thing. Kind of balance the attack and release. Nothing too crazy. Like we're trying to get rid of peaks, so it's probably gonna be like maybe a bit of a shorter attack, like kind of like mid attack. So maybe something like 5 milliseconds of attack, and then you kind of adjust the release to to your liking. you don't want it to start pumping. So that's part of the reason that we're only keeping it on a 1-to-1 ratio. And then you can just kind of pull back the threshold until it sounds too crazy, and then to kind of, you know, back it off. Like this is mastering, right? This is not in the mixing stage. So we just want things to be subtle, and you know, this is just for a demo or to test it out at the end of the day. Like we're gonna give this off to someone more professional who knows what they're doing, right? Someone who actually does this shit. I would recommend that. So you just want a bit of a soft neon here. So, you know, maybe 30, 40%. Bring this down a bit. You can see around here, we're just starting to get a little bit of gain reduction here. Like nothing too crazy. I'll leave it on here for the sake of this video. Cool, so another thing that we can do is add a clipper. So we'll use another instance of the fruity limiter, and what we'll do is come to the limiting section and kind of throw all of these down so it's a hard clip, and start fooling around with the ceiling. So let's take a listen to this. And we're just looking to clip off like just little peaks here, like nothing crazy, like that. Like you just kind of want it sitting on the top here. Just any of these little tiny peaks, you want them gone. You'll notice too, so like when I've added this on, just for context, if I take it off and we keep referencing this meter on the left here, you see now we're sitting at 3 decibels. And that's from these little peaks. That's just from these tiny little peaks that like aren't really adding anything to the record at all. They're just kind of there. They're inaudible essentially. So we're just getting rid of those. So I'll turn this on now, and you can see that we're just gonna be sitting around 6 dB. So we're back at like 6.5, right? Just these little peaks. We're not even affecting the meat of the record. We're just affecting these tiny little sprouts. So I'll take this off again. We're gonna go back to around 3 decibels. See, now we're peaking above 3. This is what? If I hover this is 2.4. And after this, what we could do as well is do a little mid-side action. So if I open up this Minimeters plugin again, what you can see here, why is this playing? Let me pin this to the top. You see there's 2 waveforms here. There's this one, and then there's this one here. So this is representing the side, so the stereo information. So in my pre-master, I've actually removed a lot of the stereo information from the bottom because I wanted to keep the low end nice and tight, nice and mono. So I've already done that, but what you can do is open up a mid-side EQ or any EQ that has mid-side capability. I'm going to show you how you can do it quickly in FL. We're going to open up a patcher plugin. Click this little arrow, or sorry, click this arrow up here, go to presets, and we're just going to click this mid-side EQ. And this allows us to, well, what patcher is it just kind of creates like combinations of plugins to achieve a certain thing. So right now in this, there's like a mid-side splitter, and then each side is routed off to have its own EQ, and then it kind of comes back in together, and then we have options to work on each side individually. So this is the side, this is the mid. So the mid being like the middle information of the track. So it should be a full spectrum here, and here it should be kind of cut off around like 200. That's how I've done it. So we'll just take a look at this. So you can see from our balancing before, if we take a look at this line again, it's like +6 line here. The low end is kind of sitting around the same area as the high end. So it's looking like a lot more balanced. I am noticing on the high end there's this like little peak here. I don't know if that's gonna bug me, but what I'm thinking I'm doing is just kind of removing it. I'm not removing it, but just lowering it a little bit. So now, lastly, what we need to do is just kind of get the track to, you know, where it needs to be. So in terms of volume, so what we'll do is we'll add a another BX limiter, or I guess I'll just drag this one to the bottom since it's already there. But if you don't have this, I guess what you can use is another fruity limiter. I don't love using this for getting the track loud. I find this plugin distorts kind of fast. You might be able to get around that with using a few of them and just kind of having all of them do a little bit of work. You could also use the Maximus plugin. There's like a bit of a couple of mastering presets on here. So, you know, we got max loudness, and saturation. You could try a few of these things. Transparent. You know, we'll just go for the clean master RMS. And this might be a bit loud, so beware. So we A/B that. But I prefer to use the true peak limiter. So I'm going to use this. I'll turn this down now. We've done some work. Yeah, let's just reset this to 0, and we'll do this whole thing again. We're aiming to get like -8 LUFS, -8, -7.5, around there. And I'm also looking to keep it around 3, so that's kind of the goal. So now we're at 8.5. Bump this up a little bit. Just do an 8 in general. So now we're at 7.5, 8. It's kind of where I want to be. I'm only going over 3 sometimes, so it's really not that bad. And I just want to mention too, this is a true peak limiter I'm using, so I think a traditional limiter works a little bit better, in my opinion, because it's just kind of the way true peak limiters work. But I don't have a really good limiter plugin at the moment, and this is just for demos, but I think this is definitely sufficient. So if we go and render this out, so I'll just do a disc recording here. So 32-bit float. Just do 24, cut remainder, sorry. Mono merge. No, I don't want merged. I want stereo. Always good to check, and just render that out quickly. Now I should have a version of our tune. Yes, I have the part that I looped. So make sure to turn off looping and then do that again. Obviously it's going to take a couple seconds, so this just allows us to take a look at the waveform after it's been done, kind of inspect it, make sure it kind of looks roughly how everything else looks. Kind of just helps with that. So let's pull this in. Let's open this up. And that's looking nice and beefy. That's generally how we want it to look. Something like that. This is for digital mastering, by the way. I think a vinyl master, you'd want it to look a little bit different than that. I'm not going to go into details about that, but for a digital master, you kind of have a little bit more playroom for sausagifying it. I don't know. I'm trying to create words here, but yeah, it should look something like this. So if you're happy with that, you can take a listen. Just make sure to disable all of the stuff on the master channel here while you take a listen. and then you can go back and forth with the original pre-master. So take a listen to this, and we'll A/B both of these. Go back to this part. Yeah, so definitely go through, check other parts of the tune. Just kind of skim through. I should have did this before I rendered it. Make sure there's nothing distorting. But you know, this is just it now. So.